What are you up to today?
I'm eating some toast right now. My name is Kyle MacDonald. I live in Montreal. I'm from Vancouver. I'm 33 and a third years old. And I'm most known as the guy who traded a red paperclip for a house. That's
Cool.
me. I do a lot of public speaking, always starting new little projects up and working on making them better, more interesting. And I tend to spend about three-quarters of my time actually thinking of new things to do.
So you traded a house for a paperclip, and you've talked about this tons. But some of the people watching this are gonna, they're gonna hear that and go like, "What is he talking about? I've never heard about this." So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, in 2005, I actually started with a red paperclip, a regular size paperclip about this big. And I traded it for a pen shaped like a fish. And then I traded the pen. These were real trades in real life. I used the internet to find people who wanted to trade.
Awesome.
And I traded the pen for a doorknob, the doorknob for a camping stove. And I kept trading for bigger or better things each time I made a trade. And after 14 trades and 1 year, I wound up with a house in Kipling, Saskatchewan.
Very cool. Very cool. Did you live in that house?
Yeah, we moved in right away. Lived there off and on for a couple years. It's now a cafe called the Paperclip Cottage Cafe, one
Wow.
of Kipling, Saskatchewan's largest tourist attractions, and cool experience.
What did that whole journey mean to you?
I think it was really all about if you have an idea, get it out there and see what'll happen. But most importantly, make steps to make the idea a reality. When I had the paperclip in my hand, I thought if I trade this for something bigger, who knows what will happen? Maybe I'll end up with something much larger. My goal was to eventually try and get to something ridiculously massive like a house. But if I didn't actually start with that paperclip and make that first trade, all of those dreams and future visions and things would have never happened. So I think it's really important that if you have an idea, not only to tell people about it, but to do something about it and just get out there and actually make the efforts and the moves to make it come true.
Do you think it matters who you tell?
It depends on who's in your. If people they're going to be completely negative and horrible, just
Yeah.
like don't tell them or ignore them or don't hang out with them as much as possible. But I think it really doesn't matter that much. It matters more what you do than what you say. And I think telling some people to get some interesting feedback is good, but often the feedback is coming from someone who has no clue the amount of time you've spent thinking
How do
about
you
that.
know if an idea is worth pursuing? It sounds like you get lots of great ideas, but I don't imagine you take action on all of them. How do you know?
You never know. You just have to try them out, see what works, see what works, but also see what you enjoy doing. Like if you start with some random idea and it's working fantastically, but you just don't feel good about it, then that's not really successful. And I think
Yeah.
it's the ideas that you work, that you enjoy pursuing, and that you actually feel good doing are the ones that you should pursue. Because once you start walking down a road with your idea, it could be fantastically exciting and more positive than you ever imagined. Other times you think it's going to be good and you realize it's going to be a lot of trouble. So it's one of those things where you take a few steps forward, sometimes take
Yeah.
some steps back. Sometimes quitting an idea is not bad if you feel good quitting it. That's the thing.
What else have you done that is inspiring? That inspires you?
I get inspired by a lot of things that are ridiculous, that don't make any sense instantly, but if you look at it or wait a while, they make a lot of sense. And one project that has to do with that is this project we did called Store Buyout, where we walked into a corner store with a briefcase with $20,000 in cash, and we bought every single thing in this guy's corner store. And now the corner store, the owner, Hercules, was going out of business about a month and a half after this. He had signs up that said, "Everything must go." We made a video about this. We sold some of the items as art pieces. We had a couple different parties and things like this. And the video has over 600,000 views. If you just Google store buyout, you can find it. The real thing with this idea is that I don't know if anyone else had ever walked into a store and literally bought everything inside the store before. And once we've done that, it's sort of this remarkable fact that now it's been done. We have the world's longest receipt. I don't know if this was a stunt, if this was art, if this was funny, if this was really important. It was just the matter of doing it and seeing what would happen. And we've actually pretty much made all expenses put into the project back by selling items now. And it was just a really remarkable thing to go do. And that for me, that's the exciting part, is the adventure. It's sort of like you think of these 17th, 18th century adventurers that would go off on hikes and discover new things. It's a lot harder to do that nowadays, especially with all the maps we have. So I kind of think of social adventures, things that experiences or things, challenges that might be possible, but you don't know until you make all the steps happen to make it possible. I think when you actually do something that you're really passionate and enjoy, it's very obvious, and I get quite excited. I tend not to sleep as much, and I think it affects other people in a very positive way, because you bring positive energy to any sort of social situation you get in when you're on a roll with any of these ideas or projects.
Totally. Isn't it incredible with how much energy you can have when you get excited about something?
Absolutely, yeah. I usually have no problem sleeping whatsoever, but when I'm in really good idea mode, it comes in cycles where I sometimes can't sleep for days on end, and have to take steps to make sure I do eat and sleep on your schedule. Got a lot of new things starting right now. Don't have any full-fledged that's going on that I am completely overtaken by. But I have about 30 or 40 different things, just trying to figure out which ones to work on. Yeah.
What's 2013 going to be about for you?
I don't know. I don't really look at things on a year basis. It's like I like to, do things as they're happening in the moment, and also have these sort of long-term visions. But I definitely go. It varies a lot. Sometimes I'll think of a project or idea that I know is going to take a few years to pull off, and it'll just be in the background working. And at the same time, I'll come up with an idea that has to be done in the next 2 days. And for those entire 2 days, I will completely devote every single thing to that one thing. And often these aren't predictable. There'll be something will happen in the news or the weather, and you have to do it right then and there.
What do you pay attention to, and what do you follow?
I don't really follow anything. I look on Facebook quickly to see if there's anything that's going on with friends and family that's important. I check Reddit once in a while. Other than that, I don't really go Wired magazine here and there. But other than that, there's about 3 websites I go to. But I try not to get influenced as much as possible. I find if you're looking at the same things that everyone else is looking at, you're going to have the same thought patterns. And I specifically do whatever I can to not watch news or read news whatsoever. Anything that's important, you're going to overhear anyways, and you can very quickly get up to speed with that. If you can be the one who is in that environment but looking at other things, that's value to me. That's sort of like a uncommoditizable value that very few people will understand. But when you get there and you start seeing things and looking at them influence from your own influences, when you start adding that up over the days and weeks, you have a very unique worldview. And I think that's something to cherish, because really it's hard to get to. It's very easy to just be completely influenced and take everything that comes in. But if you can fight those things off and go within your own, follow your own ideas, you can get to places that most people will never get to.
Do you consider yourself successful, and why?
I consider myself successful most of the time, because most of the time I get to spend time with friends and family when I want to, and work on things that I enjoy doing. The times when I'm not successful or when I'm procrastinating, and I know procrastination is a part of that whole kind of creative bubble or whatever, but yeah, it's one of those things. I think anyone who says they're successful is doomed. I think if they're content with what they're doing, eventually they're going to get bored of that. And I like to kind of keep that edge of that little danger side of it always kind of turning really closely where, yeah, maybe I'm rarely get bored, I guess, but just always that fear factor going, oh, you should probably keep working on something here and there, because otherwise you're gonna get, you know, completely complacent and get really boring very quickly.
How do you define success?
I'd say success is doing something you enjoy that influences others in a positive way. I think it's more important than just be successful is to do something you're proud of, and that could be whether you work hard at something you love or interact well with your family. I know a lot of people they don't sit around and go, wow, I wish I could do my dream job, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that happen. A lot of people won't do that, and that's totally fine. But if you have a fulfilling life outside of that, I think that's absolute success. If you fit into a place, whether it's work, climate, friends, family, all these elements where you're actually looking at it and going, this is great, and it feels natural, that's more important than actually just doing anything specifically. Yeah.
Who are your role models? Who do you look up to? Who are you inspired by?
I look up to my parents. I always have. They are the type of people that when I said, yeah, I'm going to try trading a paperclip and see if I can get up to a house, that's a great idea. They would say things like that.
Yeah.
So, and I know a lot of people don't have parents like that. That's cool. But for me, it was always about, you know, being close to family, respecting my parents, but then I kind of like doing some things that they probably wouldn't enjoy. You know, so I try and respect them. I just do those things either quietly or when they're not around, or I don't, you know, blast them with information about it unless I want to kind of make them feel funny. But outside of that, I get inspired a lot by, you know, musicians and music and writers that have done crazy projects. I like people that have these ridiculous ideas and then go do them. And then after it's all over, when everyone says, wow, I can't believe that worked, they sort of just smile and go like, exactly. The fact that you can't believe it worked is the reason it did work. There's a couple writers from England that really inspired me at the very beginning when I started doing the Paperclip project. One of them his name's Dave Gorman. He's done a bunch of different projects.
Okay.
Constantly does them. One of the first ones that I saw him do was he wrote a book about how he tried to find 52 people named Dave Gorman, and it's an unbelievably good self-branding strategy along with a ridiculous adventure. And Tony Hawk's attempted to hitchhike. It was a bet. It was a 100-pound bet where his friend bet him he couldn't hitchhike around Ireland in 1 month with a fridge, and he went out and did it and wrote a book about it. It's a great way to spend them. I like that a lot.
Good way to get to know a fridge.
Exactly.
What would you say your greatest challenge is right now at this point in your life?
Greatest challenge is
you know, like what do you struggle with? What comes up and kind of forces you to grow?
Surprisingly, is the management or mitigation of constantly talking or doing activities that relate to things I've done in the past. And almost every single speaking engagement, which I do, I love doing them. You go out, travel around, and you stand in front of a room of up to 500 people, and it's live, you're there. But more often than not, those speaking engagements are based on the fact that I did something several years ago, which is the Red Paperclip story almost every single time. And talking about the past, I have no problem with that, especially because it's in real time or live or in the future, in effect. but constantly having this sort of baggage or greatest hits type package going on is quite tough to actually. It's not tough. It's a balance between celebrating that and being cool with it, but also completely ignoring it and cleaning the slate and creating new things that not only inspire me right now, but will also be, you know, if you're not growing fruit to eat in the future, you're not going to have any food to eat.
Who are you now that you weren't then when you did that project?
I don't know if I'm any different. It's just then I hadn't really done much that people knew about. That's the difference. And I think having something to prove is there's I don't know how to say it, but no one expects it. I guess now people expect me to do stuff. By not doing something, and is that going to surprise people? No, not really. So it's more doing something that I really enjoy that fits to a new challenge.
What is one key decision that you've made that's shaped your life to be what it is today? And do you remember that time?
Yeah, traveling. Definitely, instead of sitting at home and wondering about things, just going out and traveling. And, you know, while I was traveling, I started writing. And that, I think, writing in a way that, this was before web stuff. So this was sending emails to friends and family. And people were saying, we really enjoy this, keep it going. And eventually I started finding these other writers that had done not travel writing per se, but projects that allowed them to travel. And I realized that I could travel and do things that would allow me to keep doing those things that I enjoyed.
Have you ever been so afraid of something that you had to do it? Like, what's a fear that you just kept coming up and you eventually just had to face it?
The store buyout project was definitely that. I'd had this idea for several years and of buying everything in the store. And then at one point I just said, okay, I have to go do this now, because if I don't do it now, it'll never happen. And yeah, I was pretty nervous walking in and doing all that. And it's a huge financial risk, but I think that's one of those projects that was exciting and uneasy and bizarre at the same time.
What do you feel is missing in your world, and what would you like to see more of?
That's a good question. I think what's missing in my world is very small successes, whereas instead of thinking of a very large project to pull off, a stunt, a massive overhaul taking that captures the imagination of many people, I think even just extremely small things, whether it's showing kids how to jump rope, or doing a painting that someone enjoys and only one person ever sees it and you give it to them, or these sort of like things you can do them literally every day and very easily.
I think that's a big stumbling block for people around success is, just focusing on the big outcomes, focusing on even the things that they haven't even done yet, rather than, recognizing their daily and momentary successes and their success of just being alive.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you say that, I just think of the simplicity of the paperclip and how that started, and the message behind that, appreciate the small things in life.
The paperclip project wouldn't have worked if I'd started out with a car or something big.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it did work was because it came from such a small object, obviously, but it came from literally something that every single person has. Everyone can either has a paperclip or thousands sitting around their house or place of work, or could find one on the street probably within half an hour. And it's, okay, we all have this, then how do you get to here? And I think that's a focus I try to do with almost all my projects, is use things that almost any single person could have used to get to where the eventual goal is, rather than having a massive budget and support structure and certain expertise. Specifically try something that I don't know much about, starting with very rudimentary tools, and try to get to that end goal, and make it successful, make the project successful. without having any sort of, backdoor funding or ulterior motive. Just the pure challenge of it, I think. And if you make it extreme, a very extreme pure challenge, it actually starts to fuel itself, where people they join in and go, yeah, I want to see that happen.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. That's a big part of our dreams and sharing them is when it's something that's true to us and it's a real dream and we're excited about it. Other people get excited about it too.
For sure.
Do you have any advice for young adults, young to middle-aged adults who are searching to make their mark in their world, to to answer that question, who am I, why am I here?
Yeah, spend less time on the internet and try things out and doing things in real life. I have this idea that eventually in the future we're going to not being tied to a computer is going to be a luxury. So you can actually turn it off and be away. The way that people go on trips or vacations now, being able to get away from their phone will be like in many ways a luxury. I believe that it's very easy to get sucked into the black hole of continually being curious about everything that's out there. Do things that connect with the real world always.
I hear you saying, if you want to find yourself in your world, then get into your world.
Yeah, definitely. I think the internet and all computer technology and phones and all that stuff is fantastic. Mm-hmm. It's probably one of the best tools we've ever devised. You can learn a lot by doing rudimentary things rather than just relying on the easy stuff that's there. Instead of sitting in your car for 10 minutes trying to find the address of a place that's 5 feet away or 500 feet away, you don't know where it is. Get out of the car and ask someone. Do whatever you can to create things, whether it's writing or videos or a play or building a shed. Just you're constantly creating things rather than consuming what everyone else has. I think you'll probably be more successful in terms of feeling good about yourself, but also contributing in positive ways. Well, thanks for having me on. It was fun to ramble about many things.
Definitely. One more question. What's next for you?
I've sort of been working behind the scenes on getting really amping up my speaking career and working on getting a movie made for the Red Paperclip project. So a lot of that's outside of my hands. I've been working with, third, fourth parties on all this stuff and just sort of letting that come to fruition. At the moment, I'd like to, instead of speaking 5 or 15 times a year, I'd like to really try it out to see what it's like to speak way more than that in a year.
Yeah.
And try out some new topics and kind of hone them down a bit. And that's sort of, I think that'd be a cool challenge to try and pull off. Yeah. It's part of the plan.
Awesome. Awesome, brother. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
See ya.